Welcome to House Call episode 4. And today I am Shell Robinson and I have with me VORA, who is based in England. Welcome to House Call.
Hello, Shell. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
I'm so glad you agreed to be on the show and was introduced to you through Bud Cahill, who was my inaugural episode. And so I really appreciate you taking the time today and coming to talk about house music with me.
No problem. No, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, tell me a little bit about how you got your start in your love of music.
So I mean, I'm a bit of a veteran now, really. I think the guys probably only know how old I am because of the zero hair that goes on. But yeah, I mean, I started DJing in clubs from 2002. I got my first set of turntables in 2000. And it just came from watching like all the music channels on TV. I remember watching the music videos for like Madison Avenue, Sonique, like Paul Van Dyke, all these guys, and just thinking, wow, I don't know what it is that they're doing with those things that they're moving the records, but I want to get to know more about it. And then I think that same year I got a set of turntables for Christmas off my parents, and a family member had decks and just kind of showed me to how to use them, and then it just went from there basically. And yeah, got to start to love like house music and trance. That's kind of like what I started getting into, and then I've just never stopped. I realized very early on that this is what I wanted to do for a job, and yeah, I've never looked back.
That is awesome. Tell me a little bit more about kind of that early 2000s scene for you and the music that really spoke to you. Who were your main influences at that time?
Yeah, so from where I grew up in the northwest of England, there was already a kind of scene for this type of music. Obviously, the hacienda, and a lot of like pivotal clubs in Manchester is literally on my doorstep. So there was already a big scene for like, it was either house music or trance. Some of the clubs that you went to would do half house music and then go into more trance later on.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to play trance because to me the energy was, I like the energy more with trance. I just thought there was a lot more going, and I love the emotions with like, the melodic side of it and stuff. And artists like Paul Van Dyke, Sasha, Ferry Corsten, just all the usual suspects, even like Tiesto as well, before he sold out. And yeah, just like I say, being where I am, there's so many towns and cities that are close by, and the music scene was huge. So I was very fortunate in that sense, really, that I had a lot of options open to me for like clubs and going out partying and stuff and that. So yeah, I think that's kind of a lot of my early experiences, really.
Those are good ones, and right in the center. I remember being in the Midwest in the States and wanting to be over in England in the early 2000s because that is where it was happening in that early scene. Did you have a favorite club during that time that you really loved?
So obviously Gatecrasher, which was in Sheffield, I believe, was like, like that was my dream. That was like, right, I will DJ there one day. I actually went there again in the early noughties, and I was just blown away by it. Absolutely loved it. I think I saw Paul Oakenfold there actually.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, that was great. The problem is that the super clubs that did that kind of stuff were quite a bit of a quite far away, really. But like Manchester, some of the local sort of smaller towns in the northwest had a lot of like clubs that were really good. There was a place called the Syndicate, which probably isn't very well known unless you're outside of the northwest, but that was a huge club to go to. So yeah, I think the Syndicate and Gatecrasher were like my two sort of favorite places to go to when I was younger.
This is a Gatecrasher vinyl record.
Amazing. So who's that? I don't recognize that one.
This one has got Global Sound System on it, nice. Frida, and then it's got BT. and I can't even, it's the Dreaming one. So this is that early Dreaming BT.
Cool.
We only had like 4 songs on here at the time for 15,
Yeah.
15 US dollars back
Yeah, I know.
2000 and 2001.
I was literally just telling one of the younger guys that I know on the DJ circuit about what it was like to go record shopping back in the day, and how I miss it. It's just crazy how things have changed, isn't it?
Well, there's the sense of anticipation, and then whatever town I would visit, I would always go and find, like when I would go to Chicago, I would go and find the best record store gramophone in Chicago and see what they had. It was much more of this, I think, integrated search in your life where you were in that ecosystem every week, and I would spend hours listening to the store.
Totally. Yeah. Good times.
It is good times. So, okay, so you good long-term DJing, like myself. And tell me when you discovered that you wanted to learn how to produce. What was that for you, that moment?
So I knew pretty quickly, really, that I wanted to do that, because I knew that the only way to kind of get up there was, to kind of like to be a producer. But at the time, obviously, you're talking 20 years ago, there was no YouTube, there was no tutorials. The only way that you could learn how to make music was to either pay to go on a course, which at the time for me was too much money, or to go to an actual college. But the problem with that is that it didn't cover what I wanted it to cover. Like, to go to just the usual college in Manchester or whatever, it wasn't just dance music production. It was learn to do everything, and I didn't want to do that. So what I decided to do was, because I was in college at the time, I was only like 16, and I wanted to be a graphic designer. So I quit college to save up money, basically, to go on one of these courses, and it took 5 years to get there. So by the time I was like 21, I had quite a good job. I was DJing quite a lot, so the money wasn't too much of an option. So I ended up paying. Money wasn't like too much. So I ended up. And it's so crazy how things happen, because the job that I had at the time, one of the guys that I worked with, his nephew was a DJ, and he was actually at a college in Liverpool called the SAE, School of Audio Engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And he introduced me to his nephew, and I never heard of this place in my life. Anyway, so he introduced me to the college, and then I figured out, I could do this, because the college was 5 minutes away from where I worked. So what I did was, I signed up to go on this college course, which was a 6-month course to learn how to use Logic and basically how to make dance music. It was on a Tuesday and a Thursday night, which was great, because I'd finish work at 5, get to college, have an hour messing around on Logic, and then I'd do my lessons like 6 till 8 or 6 till 10 or whatever it was. And I did that for 6 months. And then after I learned after I did this course, I was DJing 3 nights a week at the time with a full-time job. And I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to leave the job and just focus on the music, take a chance. And that was 15 years ago. And yeah, so it's been tough, and it is hard. I feel, any young producers that are trying to get into making music, it's such a hard thing to grasp and to get your head around. But again, I was fortunate enough to be in a position where I could pay to go to college and go on this course and learn it. And yeah, best decision I ever made.
That's an excellent decision. And what would you say, like, if you were giving advice to other producers, what do you think are the main things that they need to do to try to be successful in producing? What are kind of the main buckets of discipline to you?
I think you really, really need to go to some sort of college where you're getting proper tutelage, proper tutoring. You need to really, really put that time in. And I know that, especially with how we're at with the economy and stuff at the moment, money's tight for everyone in the world. I get that, but following simple tutorials online, and I even think some of the online courses that you can do aren't always great. I think you need to really have a long-term sort of you know, some sort of tutoring really. And like I say, my tutoring was my course was only 6 months, 2 nights a week. And even after I finished the course, it still took years to perfect, you know, and I still don't think I've perfected it now. But my advice is, you know, try and invest a little bit of money in yourself if you can, whether that takes you 5 years to save up some money, do it, because the time is now, and the more and more you put it off, the longer it's going to take you to get your goals. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's the best. I think I think that's the best advice. I mean, I've got some friends that are, you know, my age, you know, in the 30s and stuff, and you know, even like the early 40s that are just getting into it now. And I just say, go for it. You know, what's stopping you? If I can make some sort of career out of it, you know, why can't you? Do you know what I mean? So
I do. I actually just started production boot camp last year after taking more than a decade off, and like, you know, you got to bet on yourself once in a while,
yeah,
and
go for it, Shell.
Be willing to make some shit first,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
work on making it better over time. So that's really good advice. So what was your first record that you actually really liked that you made?
I wouldn't say that I liked it. So when I first started making music, once I'd finished the course and basically spent every day in the studio, I started off making remixes. I don't think I made an original track for about 2 years. I did little bits, but nothing that was releasable. I wanted to I love the art. Like for me, remixes are like I love remixes. Like I just love the art of a good remix, and I really appreciate a good remix. So I spent a couple of years just basically doing remixes. A lot of like just tracks that I liked as a kid, you know, or even current stuff that was out at the time. And yeah, I think so a lot of that was like just SoundCloud stuff, you know, free download on SoundCloud. Yeah. The first track that I ever released was, so do you remember Above and Beyond Satellite?
Oh yeah.
So one of my all-time favorite trance records, and I can't even remember how I met her now, but I met an opera singer, and we got chatting, and she had an amazing voice, like so good. And I said to her, like, I really want to I'd basically done a remix of Satellite using the acapella, but I was like, I actually want to turn this into an original. Would you mind singing on it? So she did, and then we released it. And God, when was that now? 2013 that was released. I can't even tell you the label that it came. This was before I was doing VORA. Before VORA, I had like another alias that I did.
Yeah.
So that was the first record that I officially released, and that was 2013.
Love it. And how did you pick VORA while we're on the topic?
So so my mum's side of the family are Indian.
Yeah.
And my granddad's name was Avinash Vora. So I decided I thought that was a good name to pick.
Good honor of your family. I love that. That's a
100%. I've got his name tattooed on me as well. So yeah, he's a great guy actually.
Oh my gosh, we need so much of that, right? It's, the family or those people that make a difference in our lives. So what a way to honor your grandfather. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. He really, really pushed me actually, you know, because he knew that like he loved music and he was into technology and stuff. And I actually remember he gave me a copy of Cubase years and years ago, well before even before I'd even thought about going to college. And he said, try and learn how to do this. And I was like, Granddad, it's so hard, you know, I can't do that. And I remember him loading it on my computer for me. And I remember just sitting at the screen, like, I don't even know what I'm doing, you know. But yeah. So going back to your question, VORA, yeah, you know, it is really a homage to him, really, because he was, you know, I think he was a big influence, you know, in my sort of DJ music career, definitely.
Absolutely. He was really investing in you and something you didn't even believe in yourself yet, which I think is, those are the people you look back on your life and you're like, wow, somebody saw something in me
Yeah.
right? Thank God. That's a
Yeah.
great story. I love that.
So
So,
I've got a question for you, Shell. So
oh,
how are you finding the production going then? How are you
well,
finding it?
so I'm learning, and as someone who tends to have perfectionistic tendencies, this has been really good
Yeah,
for me to let go of that. I think you can even get perfectionistic in your DJ mixes a little bit.
of course.
There's nowhere to hide when you're producing your own things, and I think it's good to look at where you're really at,
Yeah.
and then work on getting better. So a beginner's mindset has been really healthy for me, and I've got I'm almost finished with my first fully solo song. I'm actually trying to finish it by September 30th. That's my goal.
Cool.
Um,
Good for you.
I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. But we'll see if I can get it signed somewhere. Go from there. But I really enjoy it. It's a really great outlet, non TV, non unhealthy coping. Like it's a place to kind of channel
Yeah.
all of your whatever, right? Whatever's going on. And I really enjoy the creativity. I find myself getting lost in it, which is a great sign, even if I don't like the output.
Yeah.
All the
Yeah.
time.
I think, when you were saying about advice as well, I know exactly where you're at. I've been there myself. It can be so frustrating. And I think you've just got to keep push through that frustration because in your mind where you want to be. But just like you say, know that you're not going to get there just yet. But the only way that you will get there is to push through all of that, the frustrations, the lack of creativity, whatever it is, and just keep at it. Honestly, I think go for it, and if you're enjoying it, then that is key. Just keep pushing, Shell. That's the best advice I can give you. Don't give up on it, because you will get the rewards from it 100%.
That's a really great advice. And to me, and I don't know about you, I've been I discovered it in 2000. I had a son who passed away, and someone took me a tiny little nightclub in Cleveland called that Groovy Little Nightclub. And I was like, what is this? And it just was this great release. And I kind of look at it as, at least at this phase of my life, as a way to kind of give back to the community that really was there for me. And I've met so many wonderful people.
Yeah, yeah.
Bud's a great
Oh,
human
yeah,
being, right?
yeah,
Top
it is.
notch
I love
human,
him.
no ego, super helpful. So to me, that's the aspiration, is to find ways to give back to it, and then maybe I'll get disciplined and lucky enough through that discipline to make something that I'm proud of at some point. But if I never do, I'm really happy about the journey on the way. Truly,
A great way to look at it, and I think that is definitely the best attitude to have, 100%. But yeah, just keep at it, enjoy the process, and if there's anything I can ever help you with, if you ever need any feedback or you want any tips or whatever, just give me a shout, let me know. What software are you using? What are you using?
I'm using Ableton,
Cool.
and I also bought a Raleigh Seaboard Rise keyboard. I'm a pianist.
All
I
right,
have
okay, cool.
I have not even touched, like, I do vocals too. I have not touched vocals. I have not touched keyboards. I'm still just trying to get adept at the DAW. And I
Yeah.
think in hindsight, I wish I would have gone the Logic route.
Okay.
Just from, like, my coaches on Logic, and just when I look at the usability and different things, when people are, just seems more organized and usable to me from the way my mind works with Apple products. But what do you use?
Logic.
Yeah, you love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I mean, again, before Logic, I dabbled in Cubase. One of my friends used Cubase. I kind of could get my way around it a little bit. But then when I went to college, it was all Logic. And yeah, I've just never looked back. And I think, to kind of go off what you're saying, I think you'll get different advice from different people. And some people will say to you, oh, if you want to make house music, Ableton's the best one. Or if you want to make progressive house, Logic's the best one. That's the complete and utter load of rubbish. They do the exact same thing. All that it comes down to, Shell, at the end of the day, is what you prefer and what you can use. At the end of the day, like, I would never go over to Ableton or anything else there, because I would spend a year trying to figure out how to use it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I do. And I am probably, I feel like I'm still at novice level, even in Ableton, after working on it for 8 months. So it's it's a good learning curve. I love to be challenged. So for me, like figuring out how to use different parts and being challenged to use different parts, I love constantly learning. So that part of it is good.
Yeah,
And I really
definitely.
I love listening to everybody else's too. Like I am a serial crate digger. I go digging deep every week for new stuff. So it's part of the addiction, right?
Yeah, 100%. No, I love that. I love it, and I think listening to some of the things that you've said tonight, when you've been doing it for so long, and for me, it's a job. You forget sometimes why you started, and sometimes you have to sit back and think, remember why you started on the journey. And it gets quite difficult at times, especially when you start releasing music and the frustrations of getting knocked back from labels and
Yeah.
not getting the support from your peers and stuff. It is frustrating, but you've just got to keep telling yourself why you're doing what you do. You know what I mean?
It's so true. Well, tell me a little bit, since we're on the topic of like keeping it fresh, and what is your creative process these days when you start to work on a project? What works for you to get in the right mindset and discipline of it? What problems do you encounter with yourself?
Oh God, I could speak to you for a full day on this.
Totally.
I think so. I think sometimes for me, the goal now really is to release on good labels, to get to get the good signings, to get the good supports and stuff. I think so it's always kind of important to have a goal in mind. I know people will say don't make a track with a label in mind, which is true. It is true. You shouldn't do that. But when you're making, because I love progressive house and I love melodic techno as well. And I think, like, for example, me and Bud have just made a 3-track EP. And I even said this to Bud, and we both agreed that we knew that when we finished that EP, it would be hard to sign it because it's such a niche sound now. There's not a lot of labels that are signing that particular type of music, and that is always a difficult thing to face because at the end of the day, you still want to release your music. But the problem with like melodic techno is because it's so saturated now. There's so many small labels that are doing the same thing that it's hard. And I think, the big labels will only take something if they deem it to be special. I have never found it hard to get music in front of the big names because they will listen to it most of the time. But then getting them to go over that line with signing something is the difficult part. So in to answer to your question, what I started doing really now is, the past 2 years have been quite crazy for me. I moved house a couple of years ago. I had to do the house up, and then just life has got in the way. So I've not released as much music as I've wanted to. But for now, I've kind of just thought to myself, do you know what? I'm going to stop thinking about the business side and the signings and stuff, and I'm just going to make what I enjoy. And if we can get it signed to a label, great. If not, it's no biggie. I'm also thinking of launching a label myself next year, but it just depends on how things go with the family and the baby and stuff, really. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, going back to the creativity side, it is very, very hard sometimes, or I find this, to not always have so many different things going on in your head, because you're making something and then you're thinking, well, actually, I want to sign this, I'd love to sign to Camel Fat's label. So then you're kind of veering more into the direction of what they're doing. But then you're thinking, well, I feel like I'm selling out a little bit by making something so specific to a label. So it does get frustrating, but the past few records that I've made, some that are still not come out yet, I've enjoyed making, but I do think next year I'm going to kind of go back to basics a little bit with how I go about things, because up until 2 years ago, I was releasing my own music myself, just self-releasing everything. And then I got lucky with Deep State, got signed to them, and then that kind of came to an end. So I think I just want to go back to like having fun and making stuff that I enjoy, rather than thinking about where's it going to end up. Do you know what I mean?
Oh no, it is a it's a business challenge and a creative challenge to make what you really want to make, and then be able to get the message out there. And it's funny, I'm talking to a couple other producers right now that it's kind of a theme. Just distribution is a theme. Where you distribute's a theme. How you make money is a theme. So being true to yourself is really important. But then you also have to pay the bills. So there's that. So,
I mean, one thing that I have found as well is that sometimes the bigger labels aren't always the be all and end all. I mean, I released with a label called Of Us Records. It's an English-based label, and I wouldn't say that they're not on par with like Camel Fat's label or Cristoph's label or whatever. But they're quite reputable. We got some really good support from that EP. I mean, David Guetta playlisted one of the tracks, which was like, it blew my mind. So that record did really, really well for us. And then the last record that I released a few months ago, again, we released it with, a smaller independent label in the UK. In all honesty, when I released it, I didn't really think much of it, but it was my second best selling track on Beatport. It went crazy. It actually charted as well. It was the first time we got in the chart. So I think sometimes don't worry about it, just get it out there. I tell you, I tell this quote to a lot of guys actually, that it's really, really good advice actually. There's an English producer called James Hype who's actually a massive international DJ, but he makes like commercial, like tech house and what have you. And he said the best thing to do when you're making music is make it, finish it, put it out there however you can, because at that point then it's not for you to decide whether that record's good or not. It's up to your peers and the people that are listening to it, because let them decide whether they like it or not. Let you know, and that's great advice. That and I do follow that quite a lot.
That's great advice. I actually I want to put that up on my wall. I have a wall of information I look at every day that keeps me.
Have you got a vision board? Have you got a vision board? Have you?
I do. I've really I've made a pivot. I actually left my corporate job in July, and am starting to work on my own things, both music and podcasting and my other profession, more on my own. So you gotta have your goals laid out, and you kind of have to learn how to let some things go.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. Yeah, good luck with it, Shell. I think you've got to go for it, haven't you?
One day at a time, one session at a time. So on that, when you get stuck in your creative process, or if that never happens to you, but what do you do for you that kind of gets you back into the creative flow? What things do you do to blow off steam or reset your creativity?
Persistence is key. And I get it to this day. I always have. So at the moment, I've not worked on any original VORA music for probably about a month now. I've been doing other projects and stuff, other music projects and that. So in the next sort of week or so, I'm going to be starting some new VORA music.
Yeah.
What I will find is that it will take me 3 days to get anything that I'm happy with going. And it's a lot of going back, changing melodies, starting, changing something, whatever. But I always know after 3 days, once you've got into that rhythm and you found a little bit of something that you like, then that's it. Then you kind of just go with it. And I always say 3 days because it happens all the time.
Yeah.
After 3 days of messing around with something, I finally go, oh, actually, I like that. And then I just keep going with it and going with it. Again, persistence is key, because you can sit here sometimes in the studio and be like, everything sounds crap today. Nothing sounds great. Oh, that sounds terrible. Oh, I'm just going to finish for the day. But actually, you've got to keep going, because you will get there. That's the process for me, is the initial frustration learns into creativity. And the thing, once I've got a little bit of an idea going, then that's it. Then I can kind of just run with it and get in a bit of a flow state. I think any producer that tells you they don't get frustrated or have creative blocks or whatever is lying, because everyone does. Everyone gets it. And I'm also one of these people that I don't like to just churn content out for the sake of content. I am always a big person that says, like, I'm always a big believer in quality over quantity. I'd rather spend a month creating a great record than a month making 5 mediocre tracks. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I aspire to get there. That is definitely,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
And
good.
it's just time, like anything, you know. But I also I love watching food, you know, movies. Obviously, in my spare time, I go to the gym. I play football. I exercise. I've got a dog, you know, so take the dog out for a walk. And I think you've got to have a bit of balance. I mean, my girlfriend, because I obviously am out DJing on the weekends and stuff. You know, she kind of reminds me sometimes to kind of like chill and don't go full tilt sometimes. But yeah, I think you know have a balance as well. I think that's key. Balance and you know and trying not to get frustrated with yourself is definitely important.
That's really good. Good advice on the resets and different areas of your life that fill you out. Who would you say like right now are really producers or DJs that you really think are killing it right now, from a release standpoint? Anybody come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, the first guy is Cristoph. I absolutely love that guy. I actually owe him a lot. You know, he kind of put me in the room a lot with supporting me. You know, I think he put me you know, in a lot of people's eyes, really, because you know, he played a couple of my earlier tracks, and then he played a remix at Creamfields of mine
Wow.
on main stage last year. That was, you know, that was recorded, so it was all the footage was there and everything. And I owe him a lot for that. And he's also one of the people that you'll send him music and he'll always come back to you and reply.
That is so nice and such a great way to serve it forward.
Yeah, 100%. He's a great guy for that. Like if I sent him a message, if anyone said, you know, from my experience, you know, I could send him a message on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and they'll get back to you within an hour with, you know, and he'll chat to you and stuff and that. And for me, I've got the utmost respect for Cristoph. Not only because he's, you know, he has really helped me out as an artist. You know, he's put me in people's you know, eyes and stuff. But I just love what he does. I think he's a great producer. You know, he's really built a sound for himself, which is so hard to do these days. And he's never deviated from his vision of his sound, and that's what, you know, he is definitely my number one kind of guy. I think people like, I mean, Bud. You know, me and Bud have got really close over the past few months because obviously we worked on the track, the EP together. We talk a lot, you know, we talk pretty much most days. I have got, again, the utmost respect for Bud. I really want him to do well. I'm rooting for the guy. I think, you know, with a little bit of, I think he just needs a little bit of luck, but I think once he kind of gets that, like, it's just going to take one, like, label to snap him up, and I think that'll be it. I think he'll be running. Yeah, obviously, like Cristoph, Bud, you know, definitely. There's just so many, really. I mean, again, like, I think, you know, if I had to pick my number one choice, it would definitely be Cristoph. Again, Camel Fat, without trying to sound like I'm selling out. I think one of the reasons why I like Camel Fat so much is because I knew them, not personally, but I knew of them before they blew up, because they come from Liverpool, which is like 20 minutes away from where I live.
Yeah.
And the Liverpool scene, you would always see, you know, them DJing in Liverpool and stuff. And I've known about those guys for years. And Mike from Camel Fat, for me, is probably the most talented producer of electronic music that's you know, ever lived. I think he's so talented, and I stand by that. People say, "Oh, yeah, but you know, the commercial or whatever," but that's just my opinion. I don't really care what people think. You know, that's just my opinion. I think that they deserve every bit of success that they've got, because I've seen over the years how hard they've worked to get to where they are.
You know, that's really well said, and I feel the same way. I can't, even if someone's music isn't my taste, I have to appreciate and respect the success from the effort and the consistency and the discipline and the miles and the flights and everything that it takes to be prominent in any subgenre of house music. So
Oh yeah.
You know, on that note of like kind of appreciation, where do you kind of see house, progressive house, melodic techno, progressive trance, kind of those subgenres going in the next couple of years? Do you think they're growing? Do you think they're retracting? Kind of what's your thoughts on that?
I think techno's about to implode. I think melodic techno, something's going to have to give there, because it for me, it's kind of getting to the not as successful as where EDM was 10 years ago, you know, when EDM blew up, but it's kind of got on that trajectory, especially with Afterlife. And I think the problem with that now is the only way is down. I don't think it's gonna. I think unless, and I think you're starting to see it a little bit, especially with like Camel Fat's label, is that anima Afterlife kind of sound is becoming more and more like the norm. Everyone's making that same kind of music, and I think once you get to a point in a genre like that, the only way is down. It either changes and evolves into something else, which it probably will do, as I think what's going to happen. I think that melodic techno sound is currently at its peak and will evolve to something else. It may end up going back underground again. I don't know. But again, I think, and I've been saying this on my streams, I think that, like I've said, I do think something's got to give with that, really. I think within the next couple of years, I think you'll start seeing a little bit of a decline on it. It's probably going to start happening now, I think. I think progressive house will always remain underground. I think the likes of Injuna Beats, Injuna Deep, you know, even like Purified and what have you, will just kind of keep doing the same thing, which I like. I think once Cristoph pulls his finger out and starts releasing, you know, other artists on his label, I think you'll see Cos, his label, become like a pinnacle for that sound and be a standout in that sound. And I really want that to happen, because I would love to pitch a track to Cristoph. I've actually, well, I shouldn't say this, but I've actually just pitched him something. But yeah, so I think, yeah, fingers crossed, yeah. So I think that's kind of where it's at. I mean, I love making both. Like I've just made an EP with Bud that was very much a homage to my early sort of like VORA tracks. I've got a melodic techno release coming out in November.
Congrats.
So yeah, I love it both, but I think what you would class as your stereotypical melodic techno track, I'm getting a bit bored of it now, if I'm being honest with you. It's like everything sounds the same, and that can also be frustrating as an artist, because when you kind of want to be in that scene, but you know that you have to make something that sounds exactly the same as somebody else, it's just and also labels as well will say that they want something different and fresh and unique, and sometimes when you give it to them, they go, oh, actually we want something that's a bit more accessible, and you're like, totally. You know, but this is the industry that we're in, unfortunately. You know, you've got to play the game as well, you know, and it is a game. You know, you've got, if you want to be up there, you've still got to play the game to some respect, you know what I mean?
You do. It's funny, I was looking at Above and Beyond's Dream State that's coming to SoCal, and they've actually got classic sets this time mixed in, and I'm like, that's a really good idea to kind of bring back some of that classic set. Like Oakenfold's going to do a classic set,
nice.
And I forget who else is going to do a classic set, but I think that's cool. I also, there's kind of a theme right now that I'm having in conversations, and some of my really good friends who aren't music producers but are deep house heads, especially progressive house heads. You know, they know every producer and every song when I put it in my set the same time frame I do. But they're like, you know how movies have kind of gotten over CGI'd and kind of overproduced?
Yeah.
They're kind of looking for that live action back in the music. And, you know, I think Bud's latest Intergalactic Highway's got that live instrumentation in it that I really like, with violin.
Yeah. Great record.
Yeah, really great record. I was thinking this weekend I'll probably be playing it 20 years from now, like I do Gennaro, right? There's just certain records out over the years. So I do think there's a lot of similar sounding things. And when I'm filling up my record bin on Beatport or Bandcamp, I'm always like, these two sound very similar. And I think it also has a lot to do with what samples are available at any given time as well. So it's a good theme. I'll be interested to watch it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Is there anything next for you? You got your release coming out in November. You and Bud worked on a collab. Anything else that you want to share today?
Yeah, so again, so music wise, the next record of mine will be out on 3 Records, which is a follow-up to the one that I just talked about, the one that charted. That's a follow-up with that. I've collabed with a guy called Millhouse on that one. So that's our follow-up record. Looking forward to that. It's got a great vocal on it from a guy from Canada, a guy called GLVN. Great vocalist. So I'm looking forward to that one. Me and Bud are about to release. So what we've done with our EP is we've split it into 2. We're releasing 2 tracks on his label, which is probably going to come out in October, November, I think. And then we've signed one of the tracks off that EP to a guy called Eric Lucas. He's launching a label.
Wow.
I'm sure he won't mind me saying this because we only spoke about this literally last night. So we're going to release one of the tracks off that EP to his label, and that I don't know what's happening with that yet. It could be this year. It might be early next year yet. I'm probably going to take a bit of a break from stuff after the baby comes, just for a while, just to kind of get used to it, which I think will be good because I think I do need to kind of reevaluate where I'm going as an artist, what I want to do. Yeah, so I think that's it really. I've got to that point now in my career where I'm like, I've chased a dream for so long, and I think I've got, quite far with it, and I've got to the point now where I'm like, well, if I don't get to be a successful touring DJ, then that's fine. Just do it for the love of the music, really.
I love that. That's really great advice. I love the music. Well, VORA, congrats on your upcoming family.
Thank you.
Joining. I hope everything goes really smoothly for you there. And
appreciate it.
Taking the time to meet with me today and talk about your music and where things are at in the industry as well.
Thank you very much, Elle. No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It was good to chat to you.
Awesome.